right, Bre, welcome to the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast. We're so excited to have you here. I'd love it if you could start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit of your story and how you came to integrative health.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on again. It's really an honor, and I'm excited to dive in today. So to share a little bit about me, my name is Bre LeBlanc, and I'm an Integrative Health Practitioner, level 1 and 2. And I've also done Mastery, and now I just jumped into HPH. And so a little bit about my history and my story. So I actually grew up with celiac disease, although I didn't find out until I was about 11 years old. So I had a lot of autoimmune issues growing up, a lot of stomach pains, and also some severe mental health problems until I was about 14 years old. And I never really understood why that was happening to my body until I was much older and I found Dr. Cabral. And I actually found Dr. Cabral, his podcast. That's how I originally got introduced when I was going through my second bodybuilding show. And I had actually started in the fitness world at 16 years old and jumped into bodybuilding shows when a coach approached me and pretty much said, hey, I'm willing to coach you as long as you kind of go on stage in 6 months in your bikini and tell people I coached you. And I was like, okay, I'm down for the challenge. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I really I saw those that were healthy and fit and had muscle. And I thought that was health. I really did, because growing up with celiac and all my stomach problems, I was not severely, but I was underweight. At 16 years old, I was 85 pounds and I'm 5'1". I'm a small person to begin with, but to be 85 pounds is kind of really small. So I saw them as healthy. And so I went on this journey. And as I was going through my bodybuilding show, there's a lot of things that were happening to my body. My digestion started going not so good again. My hormones, I stopped my period, and I was only 17, 18 years old when this happened. And I just noticed all these changes to my body. And I knew that something wasn't right, that there was something more to it than just calories in, calories out. Other coaches were just telling me, oh, just do more cardio, you're on the right track. And, I was getting really lean. I started seeing my muscles. That was really cool. But I knew it just didn't make sense to me that this is what health was. And so when I found Dr. Cabral's podcast, everything started just getting pieced together and started making sense. And I was actually running a different business back then, which I had stopped when I was 19. And what I was really actually passionate about was health. And I wanted to help people that were in similar situations, because I was people just need to know this. People need to know that 90% of your serotonin is created in your gut. 70% of your immune system is in your digestive tract. I was how do people not know this? We're not taught that in school. Our doctors won't tell me. My therapist didn't even tell me. My gastrointestinal doctor didn't tell me. It would have saved me so much suffering when I was a child if I just knew why I was suffering, even mentally. I thought I was crazy, something's wrong. I need to go on all these antidepressants, which I was on for 5 years. But if I just understood that I could rebalance my gut, rebalance my body, and that I wasn't crazy, that things could work out for me, then that would have been a lot better. So that was my initial motivation for kind of getting into health coaching. And since then, I started that in 2019. And since then, I've done some one-on-one, some group work. I've actually built and sold a corporate wellness program, been able to make a pretty decent income. I hit a $70K month for the first time in 2021. And now I've also been able to help a lot of other health coaches make 10 to 30K plus. And my passion behind that is just I can only reach so many people on my own. And I know that there's a lot of health coaches that also struggle to start and scale their business. And so that's just an extra extension of my health coaching business.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love your story because it's so, it happens so often. I talked to so many people who got sick really young. I also, found out I had gluten issues when I was 16 or 15, and they had been causing crazy, crazy problems. And, and when you learn these things so young, it shapes, how you grow and get older. And it's one of those things where so many people, they get healthier. Well, they get sicker as they get older, but someone like you and me, because we were sick so young, we're going to get healthier every day for the rest of our lives. And it allows us to help a lot of people. And also the bodybuilding side of it is so fascinating to me, because most people think that athletes are really healthy. And this was something I went through. I was a lifetime athlete, and I was putting myself into more imbalance. And it was, like you said, causing the periods to stop. And it was causing so much gut problem because of the amount of food we have to eat. And, the body doesn't have energy. Exactly. Like we're overeating protein. And, do you still do a lot of the fitness stuff, and do you work that into your programs, or have you kind of like moved away from that?
Yeah, so I definitely incorporate it into my programs because nutrition and exercise is a huge part of rebalancing the body and weight loss as well. But I definitely approach it a lot differently. So at the time when I was doing bodybuilding shows, I wasn't actually health coaching. That came a little bit later. So thankfully, I was able to learn about IHP and dive into the course before actually doing that. But my training style definitely changed a lot. And I don't do shows anymore. So the last time I did it actually was I did the Arnold model search back in 2020, and I lost my menstrual cycle again for 8 months. And, to have that happen at 17, 18 and 20 years old, just like is not the best. So I still train. It's a huge part of my life. I go to the gym almost every single day, but it's definitely changed a lot since the bodybuilding show days. I used to think, okay, I need to lift as much weight as possible and push myself as hard as I can. But now, like, it's really just about maintaining. And a lot of the reason why I go is because I do want to have a good physique. Like, that's important to me, but also for just maintaining my health and the mental health aspect of things. And plus, I'm still young. I'm 24 years old, turning 25 this year. I know that as I get older, it's harder to build muscle mass. And so I want to have this solid foundation now so that when I'm older, I don't have to kind of make up for it or catch up.
Yeah. And it's so cool to hear that you started health coaching so young, because a lot of health coaches, imposter syndrome is a really big thing. They think, oh, I don't have the experience, or, they don't have the confidence to move forward. But you started so young and you were very successful, very young. And I think that's just such a powerful message for people to hear, is that, you don't have to have 20 years of experience going through things yourself.
Absolutely.
It's such a powerful thing. And, I just ran a survey, and the number one problem new health coaches had was imposter syndrome. And, it's such an interesting thing and so powerful, your story, because, I went through 27 years of struggle, and it took me 22 years before I started health coaching. But I was learning all this, and I had taken myself through all these different diets and protocols, and I could have gotten people healthy back then. I just didn't take the step to, start teaching other people. And I now feel like I waited too long. I could have helped thousands more people if I had started earlier.
Absolutely.
And so, all these health coaches who are, they just keep getting more certifications, they just need to get started, right?
I agree 100% with that. And something I didn't mention is I actually started health coaching before I got certified with IHP. So I kind of had that delay period. I was 19 years old. I was working at a Starbucks, like just on my laptop, doing these sales calls. So people were like listening in, because after quitting my business, I had to move back home for a few months. And that's actually when like COVID hit. And so my whole family was home, dad's on the phone yelling in the hallway. And I had to tell him, like, everyone just shush, like I have a call. And I was getting on calls with people who were like 25, 30, 40 years old, and trying to, make myself look like I'm a professional and I know what I'm talking about. But what I did do is I knew that I didn't have any certifications. So I always told them straight up before they started working with me. I also put in the contract that I have no certifications, but I did have a lot of experience and I did do a lot of research. And so I knew that I couldn't help somebody that was like up here, but I could help somebody that was just, one step behind and, a few steps behind me. And I actually started my coaching business a lot around like the mental health aspect of things, because that's something I was really passionate about. So yeah, I definitely got started before I was even certified. And that was like a huge like imposter syndrome for me, but I'm very happy that I took action. And then when I did get my certification, it really just like ramped things up. And then I already had a bunch of leads. I already had momentum on social media. I already had all these things. Whereas a lot of people wait until their certification or even after that until they feel super comfortable. Now they're 2 years down the road and they still haven't even helped anybody.
Yeah, and they haven't made any money yet, which makes
and they haven't even made any money.
They keep investing in more education 100%. And not in, the business side of things. And, again, I hear that every single day. It's like, I needed that next certification. But no, you can help pretty much anyone out there with even just the knowledge you currently have today. If you're 10% ahead of somebody, you can completely change their lives. And that, really holds people back as they think they need to have mastered absolutely everything. But I was like you, I started to help a lot of people before I got certified. And then I went and got a basic holistic nutrition certification, before I found IHP. And then I started to put myself through protocols. And then I realized, wow, everyone would benefit from this protocol. And so I started calling my friends, right? It's like, hey guys, you really would benefit from this. And then of course I had this built-in, lead list and people who were like ready to move forward when I could do testing or when I, had the certifications. Exactly. And again, I think it's just such a powerful, powerful message for all the health coaches listening today. And so I guess, you've created a really successful business for yourself on social media. I know I've talked to you in the past and you said that you've been really consistent with social media for years. And I'd love to hear kind of some of your thoughts for people who are just getting started and how you believe you've been so successful with social.
Yeah. There's obviously like the logistical strategy systems using automations like ChatGPT and My Chats and, these formulas for going viral. And like all of that is really great. And like, yes, to all of that. But at the same time, what I've seen to be most important and most effective for me and my clients is really just finding what you're passionate about and what works and what's sustainable for you. What you enjoy the most is what's going to be sustainable for you because it all works. You've seen accounts. I'm sure you guys have seen accounts where there's millions of followers and all they post is quotes. Others where all they post is reels. Others where their videos are super low quality and they're literally just like in their car. And then there's others where it's like super high production. They pay their editors thousands of dollars every month. Like it really doesn't matter. You can become successful doing any of those things and even not even having social media when it comes to partnerships, referrals. Like there's so many ways to grow. And so I would say the number one thing is really just finding something that's actually sustainable for you. And then on the other side is a lot of coaches think that they need to have thousands of followers. And, I have like over 300K. I'm very grateful for that. They think they need to have all these followers in order to have success. And so they don't really invest or start working with a coach or start thinking about it until they kind of have grown more. But the thing is that followers don't equal conversion. Like it just doesn't. And so I even had a client that just went from 1,000 followers to now like almost 50,000 followers. And we just started working together and like her systems aren't necessarily like super in place. And so she's not even able to capitalize on all of the leads. And so make sure that you have your systems in place and start doing that even when you don't have a big following. That way, when you do grow, you're able to actually capitalize on it and make the money that you want and actually get the clients that you want. So sometimes what coaches think is like the most important thing, like having a bunch of followers. It's not. There's a lot of other things that you can do first. But yeah, so consistency and then also collaborations is another thing that's huge. Collaborating with other brands, businesses, coaches. And a mistake I do see a lot is coaches that are collaborating with like IHPs collaborating with other IHPs. And it's like, okay, that's great, but you guys are competitors. Like you're competing for the same audience. So what's even more beneficial is if you can collaborate with people that are in your space, but don't necessarily do the exact same thing, like chiropractors, because then you guys can send referrals back and forth. I've done lives with Whitney John. She's huge. She has over 1 million followers on Instagram. She's in the fitness space, but she has an online just like meal and workout app, and she sells like supplements. And so what I do is very different than what she does. I've also collaborated with Dr. Jess, which a lot of people know. And so she has a subscription site that's also different than what I do. A lot of practitioners sign up with her, not necessarily just like health clients. And so I would say when it comes to collaborations, that's huge, but don't just collaborate with other IHPs, collaborate with other people that are in your space. And also don't be afraid to ask people that have a bigger following than you. That's a big misconception. They think, oh, I only have like 1,000 followers. I can't collaborate with somebody who has like 50,000. I've had a client that has 5,000 followers that collaborated with somebody over 100K. Like it happens, but if you approach them properly and you say, hey, I want to interview you, I want to do a live, people are a lot more willing to do it than you think.
Yeah, that's all such great advice. And I think so many IHPs, they follow all other IHPs. And so they're constantly watching, their friends and building those relationships, but they're not kind of going outside of that. And that's also creating some, it's kind of holding them back because they're looking at all the content that they're creating and thinking that they need to be exactly like them. But you're right. One of the first things you said is that find what works for you. Because if, for instance, you're not confident on video and you expect to post a reel every day, that's going to hold you back. That's going to make you sit there kind of frozen, as opposed to finding the medium that works for you so that you can be consistent. Because you don't want to wake up every day like nervous about creating that content and posting, as opposed to if it's quotes or if it's carousels, you're going to be a lot more consistent if it's something that aligns with you.
Absolutely. And it's like coming from flow rather than force. Like what is most natural to you? And for me, like I love doing photo shoots. And so that is just what's really easy, what's really convenient, because what happens if you don't is eventually you start resenting your business and then you start having burnout. But you're so right. People just look on social media like, oh, what are they doing? What are they doing? It must be working for them. But the thing, like, you never know what's happening behind the scenes. Like I've had so many of my clients be like, well, this is working for her. And I'm like, well, you don't necessarily know. You don't know.
Yeah. And I think that's another really important message is people with millions of followers are making no money because they don't know how to convert. They don't know the sales, funnel. They don't have back-end systems to gather emails. They don't know how to, get people into their DMs. Exactly. I think that's such a misconception is like, if you have a big audience, you're making a lot of money, but if, that's definitely not the case. I've seen some of my most successful clients who have under 500 followers build clients like crazy because they know how to communicate with them. They know the messaging that's going to convert, and they have that sales system and funnel in place to where they're maximizing every time they post.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think it's such a big misconception. And it also holds people back. It's like, oh, I can't even start unless I have this size following. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with your health clients, I guess, what are some of the biggest struggles you deal with? And do you deal with a specific niche, or have you kind of kept it pretty wide?
I've kind of kept it pretty wide. I've helped mostly what I've done is help women eliminate stomach pains and get rid of bloating, because that's what I've been through. And so the biggest thing is weight loss, getting rid of bloating, stomach pains. But I've also ventured off, like I said, to the corporate wellness side of things and help some executives also with their health. But the biggest brand pillars, like everything for me always falls between these brand pillars, is mind, body, destiny. So helping them with their mindset and their emotional balance, because it's, the thoughts that we think and our beliefs and our values, which impact our emotions and then our decisions and ultimately our outcomes. So that's a big pillar that I work on. And you can see that across my social media as well. It might look like, oh, this doesn't always make sense or correlate, but you'll see kind of these brand pillars throughout it. And then also body, so fitness, nutrition, like I mentioned earlier, as well as integrative health, functional medicine lab testing, doing the detox, looking at the underlying root causes. And then also destiny is huge for me. I'm really passionate about that, not just from the business side, but what I've really noticed with my clients is when they first start, it's hard for them to imagine a reality where they're actually healthy, where they're actually fit, where they actually feel good. And so one of the biggest struggles that they have to overcome is first believing in themselves, believing that it's possible, and having that faith before they see that evidence. And then when they start feeling well, what I notice is they come to a challenge where they want more out of life. And they're like, how can I do more? How can I be more? And so that's why destiny is a huge part of my coaching, because once they start feeling better, now they want to either become health coaches themselves, or I've had clients that have gone back to school or even left their toxic relationships and got into new relationships. And so, there's so many beautiful things within that. But yeah, I would say one of the biggest obstacles is really like believing in themselves and that it's possible. And I believe as a coach, it's our duty to give them that vision, is help them with that vision and keep expanding on that vision. Because I've seen a lot of clients too, once they reach their goals, they're like, okay, I'm done. And then what happens is they eventually start like falling backwards. And so we always have to ask, well, what's next? How can we optimize more? I had a client that was over 200 pounds and she lost 50 pounds, but she still had a lot more weight to lose. And I was so, happy and like, yes, we're celebrating the wins. But I showed her this girl on social media that had a similar body type than her, and how she totally transformed into like this super healthy, fit person that had a bunch of clothing sponsors and stuff like this. And I was like, look, this is also possible for you. Like, yes, I'm so proud of your progress. Let's continue. But if this is something that you really want, we can continue and you can go even further.
I love that you have destiny as one of your brand pillars. And I think a lot of people also don't really understand brand pillars. And so they don't know how to like cohesively work that into their brand identity. But it is so important as the health coach to provide that hope, to provide that vision, to be able to show them what's possible and what, the transformation is that you can provide and what that's actually going to do for their life. Because a lot of people can't visualize that. They know they want to lose weight. They know what they want to get rid of those gut issues, but why do they really want to do that? And I love that that's actually part of your branding and part of your method, because health coaches come to me all the time and they're like, okay, well, I've got these 6 certifications and I'm really confused on what I want to help people with. Yes, I want to help people with, the body side, right? The functional testing and the nutrition and everything we know inside IHP, but they can't figure out kind of the other components to it. And that holds them back. So they're trying to create their multiple, month package. They're trying to figure out how it all ties together. And it's honestly, it should be unique for everybody based on your view of what's important to help someone get to their end goal, and also what you have experience with and what you're passionate about, because what you're passionate about is going to come through in every one of your coaching calls. If you're passionate about helping people find their purpose, right? Because so many people lack purpose and they lack that vision, or they've been chronically ill for 10 years and they, have lost hope. And so if that's a brand pillar for you and you're passionate about it, then it's going to come through in all your coaching.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love that.
I totally agree. And there's this quote that's coming to mind based on what you're saying is like, also, people don't have business problems. They have personal problems that reflect in their business. I think Tony Robbins said that. I was at his event back last January, which is absolutely insane. One of the things that I never would have imagined possible when I was starting this coaching journey is, the way my lifestyle has been able to change, being front row at Tony Robbins, getting a picture with him. That's like, I wouldn't have even imagined that. But it's the same thing in people's health journey. But when it comes to like marketing and selling it, we can't sell like, you need to change your mindset and then you'll lose 50 pounds. Like, people don't actually believe that. So we sell them what they want and give them what they need. But yes, it's personal problems that reflect in their wellness journey. And so that's why, the mental, the emotional, the body, and the destiny is all so important. And like you said, part of my method to really get them well.
Yeah. And it's the same kind of in business and in health, right? If you have those limiting beliefs and roadblocks holding you back from taking action, it's like, how do you knock those out? How do you help people get out of their own way? And I think a lot of that, like you said, is the destiny component to it. And you give them wins on the mind and body side, but then you give them the hope and the vision and the purpose on the destiny side. Exactly. And you tie it all together, and that's what gives people true transformation. And like you said, you sell the transformation and you give them, what they need. They're not going to buy what they need. They're going to buy what they want. Right. And then you're just going to give them what they need. And so I think, your method is a really powerful one. And I also believe, all of it ties together so perfectly. And like you said, some people decide, oh, I now want to become a health coach, right? Is like they are brought into integrative health and how this all ties together. And then they realize, wow, this is actually something I want to teach other people. Yeah. Do you actually see that a lot as you're educating people and you're helping them achieve wins, and they realize, okay, I've been sick a long time, nothing has worked. And all of a sudden this amazing method has worked. I'm really interested in it. Do you see that happening a lot?
Yeah, I have seen that. I've actually worked with some IHPs before on like transforming their health. And then now they're also health coaches. And I've also seen health coaches. You talked about like the imposter syndrome earlier. So I helped her on like the health side, and we just like touched a little bit on business. And so she decided to jump in and become a health coach. And then, but she had that imposter syndrome, like, okay, like I don't know enough. And then eventually she made enough money to jump into IHP and then realized like, oh, I know all of this. Like I actually really do. Like it was very helpful in like some ways on like how to actually communicate it to your clients and stuff like that. But she realized like, oh, so it just gave her the confidence to keep going too. That's the thing with the certification. It really gave her the confidence to keep going.
Yeah. And you actually mentioned something, and I'm hearing this a lot too, is there are a lot of health coaches who are struggling with their own health still. Yeah. Right? And they sometimes feel ashamed or embarrassed to have to reach out to other health coaches for help. But I want to kind of normalize that, because this is such a common thing, is like you become a health coach to help yourself and to be able to help other people. But that doesn't mean you don't still need support yourself. And,
Absolutely.
all of us, we are here to help people. Like that's what, one of the reasons you become an integrative health practitioner is because you want to serve others. Right.
Yeah.
And so if you're a health coach struggling with your own health, please, reach out to others, because we want to help you get well, just like any other health client. Right. But again, it like comes back to the imposter syndrome, is like, how can I help people with their health if I'm not healthy?
Yeah.
And so it'll give you more of the confidence, and it'll help also because, and this is one of the things that I've seen, because I also work with health coaches who are kind of afraid to say that they need help themselves, is, once you learn some of these things, it's just going to add to your skill set. It's just going to add skills and confidence. Absolutely. And knowledge is going to help you help other people. And IHP is like, this isn't a competition. We're all in this together. All health coaches are in this together. Like, we shouldn't look at each other as competition. There's billions of people out there who need our help. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And a really great example of that is like all the best athletes and people in the world, they all have coaches. And I'm going to bring this up because I have Tim Grover's book here, and I actually got to meet him last year. So I have a signed copy of his book. Mm-hmm. This was Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant's coach. Even they had coaches themselves, and like I'm going through the parasite cleanse right now for the first time. So I'm like reaching out to my IHP friend, like, hey, I'm going through it as well. And so, yeah, definitely, like it's so important to have a coach because they can show us our blind spots where we're not really able to see it. And also we have a bias over ourselves and our own life. And so like 90% of our actions and thoughts are subconscious. And so sometimes we need that external point of view to really show us what we're not seeing on, many different levels, from the business side, from the health side as well. And like you mentioned, it's actually, I do recommend that IHPs do get coaching, not just from a business coach, but also from the health side of things, because I've had coaches in my life as well. It's been able to show me like how to actually coach. Because without being coached yourself, you just think, oh, I have all this information. I'm just going to throw all this information at people because that's what they need. That's not what they need. You realize that that's not what coaching is. And so that's why with my business clients too, that are health coaches, I also help them with the process and like how to actually health coach people. It's not just about throwing a bunch of information at people. You'll actually get much better results if you don't do that. And kind of like the process and how to bring people through that transformation. And you can only really do that if you've been coached yourself.
Yeah, I really am glad you brought that up, because my very first health coaching client, that's what I did. I just information bombed her, and I never heard from her again. I was like, I just gave her every piece of information, I've ever learned, and she can totally.
And then she probably went to hire somebody else.
Yeah, who would give her 2 things to do and be more of a coach. And I realized I was acting more as a consultant and just an educator, right? As opposed to a coach. And so I agree. It's really important to actually learn how to coach, and so that you're not overwhelming someone. So you learn how to actively listen and be able to help, hear what they're saying between what they're saying, because you can hear in their voice what's holding them back, even if they're not aware of it. Right. Yeah. And so, I definitely agree that, health coaches or anyone starting or running a business or doing any type of coaching should have different types of coaches. And it's just going to build their confidence. It's going to build the success they have with their clients. And it's just going to help their business grow even faster and be able to help people in a better way. So I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, with all that information, and then you never heard from her again. I think it really, as health coaches, if we truly want to help people, it is our duty to work on ourselves. Doesn't mean we need to be perfect. Absolutely not. But to work on ourselves, and also to work on our business and have that mentorship, have those investments that are going to help us grow. Because if we don't, and we truly want to help people, we're going to struggle with that. And then they're going to go hire somebody else that isn't as competent, that maybe doesn't care as much, right? They're going to join other programs that they're not going to get the transformation. So like if I get off sales calls with a health client or even a business client and they don't end up signing up with me, I honestly feel so bad for that person. It has nothing to do with me and the money I'm making and whatever. It's like, no, I know that I can truly help this person. And the fact that they don't sign up, they're going to suffer because of it. And so for me, like, that's just how I look at things. So I'm always, trying to level up and trying to really work on myself. And in order to truly be able to support people to the best way possible. And that will come from those personal investments.
Yeah. And for every health coach who's jumping on sales calls, right? And this is something that scares most health coaches to death. They're so terrified of sales calls because they're not salespeople, right?
Yeah.
And, just recognizing that if, just like you said, if they don't sign up with you, they need you, they need your support. And so just going in with the confidence is so important because they can read your body language. They can read in your voice. They can read in, the way that you're holding yourself. If you're confident in your ability to provide the transformation that you are talking to them about. And so this is one of the biggest things I tell my clients is like, we need to work on your ability to communicate what transformation you can provide and be confident about when you provide your pricing as well. Because if you provide your pricing and you're doing it in a very timid way and your voice goes down, they can see all those things and they can hear all those things. But if you show up with confidence and just know that you can provide that transformation and help them understand that you have a unique solution to their problems, then you're going to be much more successful. And every time you convert someone, you have the ability to completely change their lives. And like you said, if they don't sign up with you, they're probably going to keep going backward. Yeah. Because with health, like they're going to get sicker and sicker every day that they're not moving forward in the integrative way.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And what really helped me, because I was 19, like I said, I was taking sales calls here while my dad's like screaming in the hallway on the phone or whatever. And in Starbucks, where literally everybody who was ordering their coffee could like hear me trying to like sell these people. So I had a lot of that. But what's truly helped me at honestly every stage of my business is focusing on my intentions in the activities over the outcome. So a lot of coaches, they go on like, okay, I'm going to make money. I'm going to close this client and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, don't even focus on that. Focus on your intention. What is your intention for getting on this call? Your intention is to serve them to the best of your ability. This has nothing to do with you. Stop focusing on the money. Stop focusing on getting the client. Focus on what does this person in front of you actually need? And when you approach the call from this standpoint, from the intention and just going through those actions, the results are going to be so much better and people are going to know. So your confidence might not come from, oh, I know how to sell and I know how to get clients, but your confidence can come from your intentions of showing up and serving that person to the best of your ability.
Yeah. And I think that's the number one thing is for health coaches. Again, we're here to serve others. Yeah. And some people, if they come at it with the wrong intention, if it is money, if it is, just closing the sale, it's going to come across. But if you come across as being there to serve others, listening and empathizing and understanding where they're at, then not only are you going to be more successful, but it's going to come through. It's like the abundance mindset, right? It's like, it's showing that, you already have that process in place. You already have that ability and drive and true want to help people. And then that's going to come across so authentically that it's going to be really hard for them, one, to say no, but also like they're going to become lifetime fans and, customers potentially, because you really showed up and showed that you care. And that's a lot of what people want. They want to know that you care and that you're a partner in this with them and that you're not just there to take the money. Yeah,
exactly. And that's easy to forget, especially if this is like your only, like you don't have a full-time job, which I do work with a lot of health coaches that do have full-time jobs or part-time jobs. And so I get that point of like stress and like, oh no, how am I going to make it happen? So like the money is a real thing. But at the end of the day, whether you close that client or not, you can hop off that call feeling good about yourself and saying, yes, I did serve this person to the best of my ability. And I think that's just like really important because then you can build on that confidence. So next time you can be even better.
Yeah, absolutely. So if there was one message that you could share with the world, and I know you do this every day, but let's say this could reach millions of people, what would that one message be?
I think the message would more so be a question. And the question would be, imagine what could happen if you do take action. So starting your health journey, starting your health coaching business, the body that you could have, the confidence you could have, the energy that you could have, and how that would translate to, your family as well, like being able to actually impact your family and help your kids and play with your kids again. Imagine that reality, or starting your health coaching business, right? Like I never would have imagined, I mentioned earlier, like meeting Tony Robbins and being able to move to LA. And, I had another client, I asked her this question because when she when she decided to work with me as a business coach, she barely had any clients, barely was making any money, and she almost quit her coaching business. And I see this so much with health coaches where they just get burnt out, they get frustrated. This is not for me. And I asked her this question, like, what's more worth it for you? Is it more worth it for you to just give up? And maybe that's the thing for you. Maybe that's actually what's best for you. Or is it worth it to invest a few $1,000s to try out and see what will actually happen? And she literally made over $20,000 that month. And she actually had a problem where she had an overflow. She was like, Bre, I have too many clients coming in. What do I do? I was like, literally 4 weeks ago, you were in a totally different place. So things can happen very fast for you on a health side and a business side. So imagine how life could be if you do, and imagine how life could be if you don't. The regrets that you might have. And, when you're older, suffering with your health, and now instead of investing the money in the IHP to help you with your health, now you're investing in medical care because you have all these illnesses and diseases. And imagine all those times out with friends that you're missing because you're dealing with bloating or you're dealing with insecurity. And really, you just have to ask yourself, like, what is more worth it for me? What is the reality I want to play out? And make a decision from that place. Because a lot of people make decisions from a place of fear. But if you really play out these two scenarios, you'll know what to do. You'll know what actions you need to take. You'll know what decisions. You already know. I don't need to tell you. You know.
I love that. Well, I love the message being a question. That's a great one. Well, I appreciate your time so much, and I know the audience does as well. So where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram, bre.leblanc1, and they can find everything else from there.
Okay, amazing. Well, again, thank you so much. This was so valuable. And I know, all of our listeners are going to appreciate all of your insight. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Make sure to subscribe to any of our podcast platforms or on YouTube. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. I had fun, and I hope people found it valuable.
Yes, absolutely. I had fun too.